Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Kale Blake's Books. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Knight of the Silver Circle by Duncan Hamilton. This is the second book of his Dragonslayer trilogy. I read the first book in this trilogy, Dragonslayer, a couple months ago and enjoyed it quite a bit. And so I have been eagerly awaiting starting the second one, which I just finished. And I had a good time with this one. I don't think I liked it as much as the first one, but it was pretty good. And it did a lot of really fun things that kind of expanded on I think the scope of the series a little bit, which was kind of fun. So as far as things that I liked about this book, I think that the overall plot of this book didn't hook me so much, but there's a lot about it that I thought was really interesting. So, this book builds on the first book, in which you have this main character, Gio, who has kind of become this Dragon Slayer character. He, there's dragon attacks happening in the land, and he is sent off to kill the dragon, and he does so. And now there's 3 more that have just kind of shown up, and then there's other things going on with like this magical artifact and things like that. And so he is sent off to, basically take out these other 3 dragons. And there's other stuff going on as well. There's this other character named Selene, who's like a sorceress from the first book, having some stuff going on with her and different things like that. But I think one thing that was cool about the story of this book, was how much it expanded on what was in the first one. Because the first book to me was very much a pretty straightforward, just Dragon Slayer book. Where, the majority of the book was just, Gio, dealing with all his personal stuff, but also having to go and, slay this dragon. And there was other stuff going on. There was a little bit of political machinations going on. There was the stuff with Selene being a sorceress, trying to learn how to hone her powers and things like that. And this one kind of I feel like this one takes the dragon slaying stuff and kind of moves it to the back burner a little bit. I mean, it's still an important part of the book for sure, but there's a lot of other stuff going on that feels just as, if not more important. Where I think in this one, the political machinations and the, scheming and all these kinds of things going on with the Prince Bishop in this series and things like that, the political aspects of this series kind of really get brought more to the forefront in this book, I think. And that character starts getting much more involved and trying to kind of get his way and things like that. And then on top of that, the story also shifts a little bit by doing some things that were really unexpected. This is one of those books that I feel like, the phrase in fiction of subverting expectations kind of has, in some places, some negative connotations to it. Whereas I think in this book, I would describe it that way, but in a very positive light, where it did some things that I really was not expecting, considering how somewhat traditional the first book felt, and then this one kind of took my expectations that were set up by that book and kind of flipping them on its head. And I thought that was really cool. Obviously, I can't talk much about that without going into spoilers, but there's some really cool twists and turns in this book that I thought were really interesting for the story, for the world, for different things. Specifically, there are some really fun kind of subversions about what is going on with the dragons, especially. I thought it was really interesting. The action in this book is well done. At least to me, it didn't feel as heavily involved as in the first book, but there is still a decent amount of action here, which is well done. And a lot of good dialogue, which I enjoyed in the first book as well. The dialogue, the writing style, all that stuff in this series, I tend to really enjoy, it seems like. And that was all very well done in this book also. The characters, the character interactions, the dialogue, things like that were all really interesting. There's a lot of very particular dialogue in this book that I loved, which I can't talk about again due to spoilers. But there are dialogues between certain characters within this book that are very integral to the story that are really interesting, and I really enjoyed those. A lot of certain dialogue scenes that I thought were really cool and things like that. But this book to me, like, story and characters was not as strong as the first one, which is the main thing that brings this one down a little for me. Like, the story had a lot of interesting points to it. Like, there's a lot of really cool twists and turns, like I said. The ending of this book, actually, I think is fantastic. Like, the last, 20-25% of this book is really, really good. I really like kind of the setup of it, where like you have Gio being kind of heralded as this hero for slaying the dragon and all this stuff, and him having to deal with that before being thrust back into another adventure. You know, there's parts of it that were really interesting. It's just the overall plot of this book didn't quite hook me in as much as the first one did. And I think part of that could be because it expands a bit, but I think, you know, even those expanded parts were cool. It just didn't quite hook me as much as the first one did. And the characters, I feel like, didn't have quite the same depth to them as the first one did, which to a degree makes sense because the first book, I feel like, really delved into Gio as a character and kind of getting like who he is and all of his struggles that he has going on and different things. And this book didn't really highlight as much of that to me, which that was one of my favorite parts of the first book. So the characters here to me were not as interesting as they were the first time around, but there are some very interesting characters that are new in this book. And also the interactions and the dialogue and things of that nature between characters was still really enjoyable and still really interesting, and I still enjoyed it a lot. It's just that the characters themselves didn't draw me in as much as in the first book. So I know this is kind of a short review, but I don't really have a huge amount to say about this one, to be honest. Like, it was generally really good. I generally enjoyed it. Cool story parts, cool action, some fun revelations and things like that that were really interesting. A little bit of a different feel and tone from the first book, but you know, just didn't quite hook me as much as the first one in some ways in regards to plot and characters, but still a pretty enjoyable book and one that I had a good time with. And definitely, like I said, the end of this book is really good, and both the ending of this book and the revelations that occur throughout the book really made me excited to read book 3. So I am really looking forward to reading book 3 now. I'm just thinking that, assuming that book follows through really well and all the stuff set up in this one, I do think this one's probably going to end up being my least favorite of the 3, which is unfortunate, but you know, it's still pretty enjoyable. So as far as a rating out of 10 that I would give Knight of the Silver Circle, I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10 or so. Could be pushing towards an 8 maybe, but I don't know that it quite gets there, but it's somewhere in that area where it was really enjoyable, just didn't quite hook me the same way as the first one. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. So let me know in the comments if you have read Knight of the Silver Circle, what you thought of it. If you have, if you liked it better than the first one, or if you're like me and didn't like it maybe quite as much, or anything like that. Or if you have read the entire trilogy, what you thought of the third one, and just so I can kind of know what to expect and things like that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this one. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.